Cut the damn music. Cut it. Cut that stupid music. Good morning, everybody. Let's talk about short ester hybrids for libido. I've been talking about this a lot, and just want to hammer the point home. It's not always the case that you have to just stick with an injectable. You stick with your cypionate or whatever, and you just have to dial in on that. I mean, these fast-acting esters give you the opportunity to, if you're strategic, just kind of dose low on the injectable, 100 milligrams or so a week, a little bit of HCG, hopefully some DHEA, and then add a little bit of the fast-acting stuff, just a little bit, right? Because they're more likely to convert to DHT at higher amounts, or at least at boluses at once. Cream for sure, higher amounts on the scrotum, you're making more DHT. And that is usually what people need when they're on a protocol. Estrogen's in range, but it seems like shit isn't working the way that it needs to work. You need functional testicles and you need a DHT. So use the fast-acting stuff as sort of small dose infusions to try to get a little added DHT without it over aromatizing. Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking killer strategy. I think hybrids in general are a killer strategy, but what people often do to mess it up is they just dose too high on one or the other. Dose too high on the injectable, the base of the protocol. They're injecting 150 of test or something, enthanate, and then they add, 10 milligrams of prop a day. Well, I mean, you're likely to over aromatize at that point. If you could tolerate AI, it's totally fine. The more tests, the better if you can manage estrogen. That's always been the case. The only reason I've been talking about lower doses here is because there's just a lot of people who have a fucking problem dialing in on aromatase inhibitors or even Masteron or Primo. I mean, I've seen guys just try running those and running uber small dose, like 10 milligrams of Primo every other day with 120 a test, and they can't dial it in. They can't dial it in. Body's not responding to the inhibition of aromatase. Anyway, as we talked about earlier this week, another major point to hit home is that with Proviron, if you want an estrogen reduction thing to happen, you've got to be dosing 50 to 75 milligrams. Yeah, especially if you're on 130 milligrams or more of test. If you're up there 130, 150, 180, 200, and you think you can take 25 of Proviron and it just solves your dick problems, it's likely not going to, because it just can't manage estrogen at that level. And it might not be enough of that potent AR activation and DHT stuff to counter the estradiol that you definitely have at that point. So what you need to do is either take your dose down below 130 and then run the 25 milligrams Proviron a day, and that will likely work. Or if you're going to be running 130 or above of test, you got to run 50 to 75 milligrams Proviron. Mega dose it. There are strategies that seem to work where you front load Proviron at 75 milligrams a day for the first 30 days, and then you dial back to 25 milligrams a day. That's assuming that you really need some estrogen control and assuming that you're on a somewhat higher dose of a aromatizable androgen like test. Lastly, let's talk about microdosing DHT for EQ, then we'll get to your guys' questions. Yeah, look, it's often the case that you don't really need that much more DHT to do a 180 on a protocol when things are all right, but they could be substantially better. The EQ is a little inconsistent. You need cialis, etc. You usually don't need a lot of DHT. When estrogen's in range, in your sweet spot, that isn't always the solution to TRT problems because you need the DHT too. So oftentimes, I get clients a lot that have gotten some DHT gel or DHT injectables, and they're dosing mega doses of the shit. And that's just not it. That's just not going to help you. It will crush estrogen at the gene expression level, and it's going to cause an imbalance. A lot of times, just a little bit of added DHT is what solves the problems. You'd be very surprised by how much 5 milligrams of topical DHT every other day on the scrotum increases erectile quality if you're on a dose where estrogen's in range and things are okay, but they're not quite perfect. You take a little bit of DHT, solves the fucking problem. Please keep that in mind, boys. Those are the things that I've learned in coaching. It's real information coming from real experiences. And besides Vigorous Steve, and perhaps a few others, there's not many people that are giving the raw goods that they're just seeing over and over again. That said, boys, wanted to mention again that I've opened 20 more slots on coaching. All right. We had a very, very successful campaign, if you will, on this. It was a little slow in the beginning of August, so I decided to just drop the prices on everything. And all those folks that wanted to get on board just got on board. I mean, think about it. First of all, you're saving thousands of dollars on every coaching package, so just know that. Thousands. And if you're looking at the rates and going, maybe another time, or maybe I should wait for that or something. I just took, it's like $1,000 off the month one, $2,500 off of 3 months, $4,500 off of 6 months. This is really significant, boys. So I'm going to leave that up for the rest of the stream. 20 more slots open, 19 at this point, booked another yesterday. So keep that in mind. Let's get to questions. Okay, first question is, I mentioned reconstituted HCG is good for 2 to 3 weeks. How long does an unopened vial last if stored in the fridge? Yeah, you can store it at room temperature. It doesn't need to be stored in the refrigerator. But unopened vials, I would constitute them within 6 months if I were you. Keep them in a somewhat temperature-controlled environment, but room temperature is fine so long as your house isn't sweltering. It's like summertime and your AC broke. Yeah, you probably want to put it in the fridge or maybe on an ice pack or something like that. But, JL Montaigne makes a good point here because, like, HCG, it denatures quickly. It really does. And I think that's part of the variability. You get guys with all kinds of theories like, HCG was working really well for me, and then it stopped. There's 2 reasons for that. One, it took estrogen too high, because it could fucking do that. And secondarily, the protein denatured. That's it. The peptide is not as effective as it was, and you're not getting the same HCG hit. That shit does happen. And you'd really be hard-pressed to find high-quality HCG that lasts 30 days. Potentially Pregnenolone, potentially Merck's Ovitrel, but otherwise... You're not finding that. At week 3, reconstitute. That's the way that you can be successful, and no, you don't need to store it in the fridge before it's reconstituted. Hector, good morning, Ryan. What's a good enthanate and prop daily combo? I metabolized prop too quick and felt tired of 15 to 20. Okay, yeah, I'm at that point too. 25 is kind of the sweet spot for me for prop a day if I want to take no estrogen control and kind of let the protocol go. One of the reasons I'm not doing that at the moment is because I'm less anabolic on that dose of prop. Dick works great. Libido is pretty good, but I'm not very anabolic on it. It just leaves my system quick. The longer esters are via nitrogen retention, probably among other things, more anabolic than prop. So in this case, what you would want to do is run, I'll give you protocol. I would run 98 milligrams of enthanate a week. That's 14 milligrams a day. So 7 units on an insulin syringe. If this is 200 milligram per milliliter, if it isn't, you have to do that calculation and find what is 14 milligrams a day. Inject that on the upper glute with a 5/8 inch needle. I'd run 100 IU HCG a day just to be safe. I'd also run 20 milligrams DHEA daily. It's kind of like cheap DHT. It's a good balancer and does a lot of other things. And then on top of that, I would run I'd start at 5 milligrams of prop a day. Yeah. So 98 milligrams a week in the injectable, inject every day, 5 milligrams of prop on top of that. That's what I would do. I'll only go up if estrogen can tolerate that. If you can tolerate E2 going higher, then, the sweet spot is likely to end up right around the sweet spot if you're, running that 100 milligrams of enthanate and that little bit of prop. Dream big, 130 milligrams test C per week. Total T is 1,200. Okay, E234, that's pretty good. DHT 25. Would I be a good candidate for Proviron? Absolutely. I mean, if right now, see, here's an interesting example. If right now sexual function is not great, even with the E2 at 34, plenty of people need it to be 25. 25, 27 is ideal zone, for most guys on TRT. But I guess if things aren't great, 25 Proviron a day would do it, because you're down as far as E2 goes at that zone where Proviron's actually going to make a difference. Proviron's going to make a difference. Now, my question to you is, and I think everybody's question should be, how the fuck are you at 34 E2 at 1,200 total test? I guess that's pretty good. Are you injecting daily? That's definitely good. I would assume, I guess you don't have any HCG in the protocol. But yeah, if you wanted to use Proviron to try to lower that estrogen into the zone, 25 a day would likely do it. Yeah, I'd give you some benefits. This is an example where, guys right on the borderline there, and 25 a day actually would revitalize the sexual system for the most part if it was downed or impaired. Whereas again, if you're pushing, above 130 and the estrogen's 40, 45, 50 or above, you need to dose a lot more Proviron. And that shit could come with its own side effects, man. I mean, the first time I dosed Proviron was actually a wild experience, dude. Erections and libido, like that fucking day, I literally was on a walk with a boner and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I have to turn around and go back to my car because I can't get this down. And I felt a lot of sensation increase. It just felt fucking nuts. But I was profoundly I was snappy. I was a little agitated. Yeah, my body got used to it, but Proviron can be pretty powerful. Lazebas, have you ever seen Proviron increase blood pressure in individuals experiencing higher symptoms? Look, any androgen has the ability to increase blood pressure. The thing you want to generally do is get your body situated where your BP just never really goes high. And the only way that you can do that is, I would say, take it somewhat easy on the sodium. Don't try to lower it, but don't eat pizza 3 times a week and then you're not loading up on fucking 2 grams or whatever. Other than that, I honestly think that I've been a runner for many years. I've taken a break this summer, but I've on and off ran for, almost 20 years or something. Yeah, literally 20 fucking years. And that has made a positive, lasting impact on my body and my blood pressure. It never goes high. Even on cycle, my blood pressure was totally fucking fine. So, if you're not like that, Proviron absolutely has the ability to do that. Just manage it. Run some cialis if you need to lower it, or go watch a Vigorous Steve's channel where, blood pressure is something they talk about. He has talked about a lot over the years because they're talking about steroid doses of stuff where blood pressure for most individuals is likely to go up. J.L. Montaigne made his first batch of Liquid S. So a milligram into 30 milligrams. Okay, took 0.25 milliliter sample and no side effects yet. I'll taper up until side effects. I think I'm on the right track. Absolutely. And that's something that, if all else fails, you find the concentration where you can go uber microdose in arimidex via crushing a tablet of arimidex into distilled water or an otherwise liquid. But vodka works, tequila will work. And, you make a dropper of it where you're dropping super microdoses below the stuff that you can even get compounded in the pharmacy, below 0.125, below 0.06, below 0.03. You're talking about 0.00 something. And that's where, if you're going to, if you need to find the sweet spot in aromatase inhibition, you're going to find it. And not all people can even do that. Some people are just so sensitive to fucking with those enzymes that they can't even do Liquid X. Ryan, let me bring your thing up here. Hey, thanks for the super chat, brother. Appreciate that, man. Can Accutane cause serious neurological neurotransmitter issues along with the well-established effects we know on the endocrine system? Do endocrine effects include any more than 5-AR DHT problems? I think people often forget how majorly influential hormones are to neurotransmitters. So first of all, yes, 5-AR blockers do the brain converts other stuff. I think in the kind of mineral corticoid, glucocorticoid category into their usable byproducts via 5-alpha reductase. So yes, whether that means you're making less cortisol, less aldosterone, you're going to have issues related to how the brain synthesizes certain steroids as a result of taking 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. There's no question about that. But regarding the libido side and the erection side, the brain cascades responsible for that are affected pretty much strictly by hormones. DHT itself has been studied as an antidepressant, right? It's got antidepressant effects. Talk to anybody, man. Takes Proviron, takes DHT. Suddenly, the cognitive and mental side positives, the benefits, are very noticeable. And people are like, holy shit, I feel better. I have energy. I feel like I want to be productive. I feel super confident and masculine. It's pretty fucking awesome. Proviron is confidence in a pill. And if you can situate it where it makes sense for your protocol, then you get confidence in a pill plus better erections and better libido and better climax and better sensation. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Thank you for the super chat, brother. If you have any more questions, send them. Send them. Everybody send your questions. You guys are here. Post them. Those of you that just jumped on, coaching, 20 more slots open. 20 more slots. There's actually 19. I booked one yesterday. Mega discount. 50%, guys. 50% discount. You guys are going to want to get on board. Many slots left. Lots of time throughout my day still. I got a big surge of clients when we launched this discount. I had to kind of look at how much time I was spending and what's free. There's 10 people dropping off because they were closing their sessions at the end of this month, somewhere on the 20th. It's like in 5 days, 7 days. And then 7 more in September. I got slots, boys. A Sidhu. In Sustanon, there are 4 esters, 2 of them being prop and decanoate on the extremes, but there's 2 mid durations as well. These are 60 milligrams phenylprop and 60 iso cap. Any thoughts on these? I think that Sustanon is hit or miss, just like a lot of other stuff. You have to dial a dose in, you know. You're better off if you're intolerant to AIs and intolerant in terms of sexual function to estrogen, just low dosing it. And then it fucking works because you get a stable baseline and then you get these peaks, a little bit of peaks. So the added DHT really helps. JL Montaigne has side effects on small doses of cialis. Yeah, they subside after time, 100%. I mean, I got it in the beginning of running cialis. I was had lower back pain. I had this fucking weird leg pain. Like it's as if blood was pooling away from those areas and instead pooling just right to the junk, you know? And it felt weird, dude. I got to say it was fucking, you know, a little weird. I think I got some congestion right away. And, you know, that just went away. It just went away. It went away. And it always goes away. Yeah. Yeah, cialis is a wonderful fucking drug, man. It's just a really, really good drug. Not just for heart health, but for blood flow, erection quality. There's like a nootropic, like long-term effect from the use of cialis where your brain, if you will, atrophies less. You get good blood flow to the brain. It's actually pretty cool. There's a big study on that. Dream big. Can some men just take the full dose of 25 milligrams per Proviron a day? How did you take it when you were shredded in those photos? I was running 12 and a half and 12 and a half. Yeah, 12 and a half in the morning, 12 and a half in the evening. The only reason I did that is because at 25 at once, it was pretty bad for my hair. It wasn't falling out, but like I would wake up and notice like just open spots in the top of my hair where it's usually just thick and luscious. I'd notice these open spots and I would see it. And, you know, it died down, but I just had to kind of take it to 12 and a half. The hair loss to an extent still happened there, but it was tolerable and fine for the time I wanted to run it, after which my hair just instantly recovered, you know. My thoughts on DHT and enthanate are it can be very useful, especially because it's really controllable, you know, and you can find out, you know, you could figure out how to dose 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams at a time, every day, every other day. And that's ultimately what you want to do usually with DHT. You start mega dosing it, it's not a good idea. There are people that are proponents of like mega dosing DHT. You can only do that if you have the test in estradiol to support that. Because DHT is pretty powerful at blocking aromatase and kind of inhibiting some of the actions of estrogen at the gene level. So mega dosing DHT, you sort of have to dose everything else kind of high too. And let it sort out. You're not always going to dial in that way. But I think that on low doses of DHT and enthanate, it's actually a really good idea. It's a really good idea. Again, all people really need to do, I mean, one good strategy is have a stable baseline of preferably a long ester at a low dose to get E2 in range. And then from there, add a little bit of DHT. People are going to see how much better their protocols are when they do that. Nemo, was I ever on a daily, late on a daily injection and causation for 3 days? Yeah. Well, I did discuss this some time ago. My girlfriend and I were really busy for 1 week, and part of that was we had like just taken her son to move in and get situated at Penn State. So it was like he literally went to college, and so we went there. And you know, there was like some logistical shit that prevented me from injecting. Days prior, there were also some logistical things mixed with my mistake to not have my shit with me where I was just in the middle of something and couldn't inject. And yes, it for me, it took my estrogen too low. That's essentially what happened. I think the test was okay, but took E2 too low, test a little lower than it should be too. And, all the common shit happens when estrogen goes a little too fucking low. I was urinating all over. It's just like, how you retain water on high amounts of estrogen? When it's kind of crashed or in the 12 to 15 picograms per milliliter range, somewhere around there, maybe 17, 18, you can't retain water. You can't retain anything that you consume water-wise. You just pee it right out. Your bladder muscles start to weaken because estrogen very much influences them. This is why women on menopause that have no estrogen have frequent fucking UTIs, because estrogen is just, the lack of estrogen is completely atrophied bladder muscles, urethra, etc. So that's what happened. I did not have any poor sleep or anything. That's the next question. Yeah, that's what happened when that happened, and it did suck. At the time, libido and erections were good, because lower the estrogen, usually better until a certain threshold, which is different, by the way, if you take an AI and lower the estrogen, that's a whole different state than naturally lowering it. But yeah, I felt like dog shit, and it took me just about 5 days to kind of regulate that. And I still had some lingering side effects after that. Yes, I have back in the day, marginal effects. I don't really think that that's some super compound. Gets a lot of hype, but so does a lot of stuff. It never ends up really being as amazing as it's purported to be. OB, I'm working with a TRT clinic, getting tested every 3 weeks. Tested every 8 weeks. I pin on Monday and Thursday morning. How important it is to wait 3 or 4 days before getting tested? Tested on what? Tested on what? When is Cortex back in stock? Cortex is discontinued. Yep, we only have Torque for now, and I think I got about 1,000 bottles left, so we're going to be running specials on those. Actually, if you use the code TORQUEBOGO, TORQUEBOGO, it's buy one, get one free. We're going to run buy one, get one free until we run out of that stuff. Nemo, can you make HRT work on an intense night shift schedule with poor sleep, or will E2 get out of control? Well, I don't know what you're asking. How is E2 going to get out of control? How is E2 going to get out of control? And of course you can. You have to bring your shit with you and go in the bathroom and inject. That's just the bottom line. Is test prop in grapeseed oil fine, or has to be MCT? Grapeseed is fine. All of them are fine. All of them are fine. I think you do get people who have some sort of strange allergy to certain carrier oils, and it's hard to explain exactly why, if they're immunogenic or if they're interacting with some previous, usually they're interacting with some previous condition they may have had, or mild disease state or state of dysregulation that they're experiencing, that it's triggering an increase in histamine and they're getting symptoms. So yeah, I think it's fine. Nemo, with HCG shorter half-life, how long does it normally take for you to dial it in? Well, I just know the doses that work for me regarding the test dose that I'm at. If I'm on higher doses of test, I got to kind of dose a little lower on HCG so that estrogen doesn't get out of control, but still need enough. On lower doses of test, I can tolerate 350 a day, 350 IU a day. It's 2,300 IU per week that I can tolerate on lower amounts of test. Regarding dialing in, it's a short half-life, right? So you kind of know right away. But I have been doing this for years, not just myself, but thousands of people. So I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. I understand the degree of aromatization, which doses invoke in the testicles. So it's kind of easy to dial in. Joe, DHT prop versus DHT enthanate, also following the sources saying they put out androsterone E. Thoughts on that as well? Don't have a whole lot of thoughts on that. Frankly, for faster dialing in, a faster ester is always going to be better. Yeah, because you get your results quicker. Because it leaves the body, it hits you quicker. If you're paying attention to it all, you can dial the doses in quicker. If you want more of a slow drip and you're smart and you start at a low dose, DHT and enthanate works. Proviron versus DHT gel. Hey, Zach, I hope you're good, man. Well, these are two different things, brother. Yeah, Proviron has like a fucking significantly higher affinity for the sex hormone binding globulin, which just means it lowers SHBG more than DHT itself. And that frees up your free hormones, but could give you a little more free estrogen than you bargained for. Proviron is pretty potent at the AR, but nowhere near as potent as DHT itself. It is unclear whether Proviron can upregulate 5-alpha reductase enzymes via likely the SRD5A1, something to this effect, the gene that encodes 5-alpha reductase isoenzymes, but DHT can. So, I would say that in cases of serious sexual dysfunction, DHT itself is probably, a better idea to use if you feel like you need to use it. And there are all kind of conditions to determine if you use it or not. But these two things are not one and the same. They're just not. DHT is much more powerful at the AR. It does a lot more things. Proviron is more heavy at lowering SHBG. And that's that. Rishab, if someone applies 10 milligrams of DHT gel to the penile shaft for the first time, should the effect be noticeable right away or does it usually take time? Right away. But I wouldn't do 10 milligrams. I'd run 5 milligrams just to kind of see where you are. And it all depends on the context of your protocol. Do you need more DHT? Or is it going to mess with estrogen? The cases in which people need more DHT are longstanding sexual dysfunction induced by DHT inhibitors, as well as just being in a low dose injectable where estrogen's in range, but you don't make enough DHT because the dose is too low on tests. So then you bring a little DHT in. But yeah, right away. And things that you do feel, they're not placebo, dude. You're fucking increasing dihydrotestosterone concentrations, which is like literally the hormone that makes you a man and controls your erections. Dream big. In my opinion, do I think one-on-one hormone coaching is going to be more needed than ever before the future expansion of people going towards HRT? This is what I know. The reason the market even allows people like me to exist and doesn't just kill us and is frankly very good to us is because there isn't personalized sort of in the trenches, out of the orthodoxy coaching from the clinics, and certainly not from your doc. They don't care. They don't do that. That's essentially why this is such a huge thing. I mean, I am sought out by people in most continents in the world at an extremely high capacity. I'm probably one of the most sought out HRT coaches on the planet. There's a huge market for it. There's a huge demand for people needing a person to analyze, every step of their protocol that has a breadth of experience to know what to do in what situations, and like works on dialing people in for sexual function every single day for more than a half decade. There's a big demand for that, right? Because I think a lot of these MDs, let's call it people at the clinic, it's a revolving door. So they, fire people, they come back on, some of those people move on to other jobs. But if you've ever had a conversation, with someone at the clinic, any clinic, even well-known, well-established clinics, some of their NPs, as an example, are just not that smart. I mean, they lack a lot of information. Whereas, you take someone like me, call it Dave Lee, obviously Vigorous Steve, we see shit in the trenches that those guys aren't seeing, and we do research and thinking that those guys don't do. So there's a whole level of additional information that we have to offer as well as experience. Doesn't mean that they're not useful, because some of them are really good. But yes, it's only going like that. It's only going like that. People just need guidance on that. And, the more the coaches out there, Dave Lee, me, Vigorous Steve, have experience, the more surgical we get, over time. So, I mean, we're able to, in terms of efficacy, beat out some of those, the consultants at the clinics, essentially. OB tested on total free T is SHBG. Thanks. Got it. Adam, is golden yellow a normal color for testosterone and enthanate? 300 milligrams per milliliter. It has been. Yes, it has been. If you're getting that UGL. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. I've gotten that shit too. Yeah, I've gotten that stuff too. I've gotten it. It came in like a vial with which you should then take the compound out or some of the oil out and inject it into small little vials and make your own from it. But I think I know just what you're talking about, and I have gotten that before. It's it could be the carrier oil. I don't really know, but it's totally good. I was running that same stuff, or another set of enthanate that looked just like that. When I ran the cycle of 560 a week. Nemo, does poor sleep cause estrogen spikes on HRT? Is that an online myth? I don't know. I mean, it sounds plausible. It sounds like, but I don't think it would be consequential. I think 5 milligram swing or 5 picograms per milliliter swing, nothing major. But it sounds like it could happen. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. That would indicate like a sleep disruption somehow causes a degree of aromatase expression that's higher than normal or prevents hepatic clearance of estradiol, something like that, which isn't out of the question. Cortex was great. Looking forward to try Torque. Torque has less choline, slightly less. Yes. I reduced the choline because not many people in my tenure of doing nootropics consulting, not many people can tolerate lots of choline for too long. They can initially, and then their brain starts to reject it. How to clear acne on TRT? Ultimately lower doses is the only answer for that. Less fluctuations in hormones is another answer for that, for sure. At the same time, something weird happened to me where when I went on the test cycle, and it was like 4 months total of a half a gram of test, at one point running 700 of fast acting shit. I had acne on the cycle. Definitely. I had it all over my delts. I had it all over my back. Just the top shoulders. My back itself was pretty clear. And then when I went down from that cycle, like all the acne, like even on doses of TRT where I had acne prior, just went away. Did I burn out the fucking sebum production? I don't know, but ultimately lower doses and as stable hormones as possible. Trey Manley is here, everybody. First time I ran tests a few years ago, I had crazy dopamine activity. Felt incredible all the time. I'm a prop guy only. But how do I get that feeling back? Seems extremely blunted now. Well, this all really depends on where the other hormones are. Now, look at your bloods and that'll tell you. I feel blunted on too low estrogen, that's for sure. And I feel a degree blunted on too high estrogen. It's kind of just about being in that sweet spot. But it also has to do with the dose of prop, It also has to do with the dose of prop. I think any stimulant effect that you get from something tends to die down a little bit over time, including coffee. But, or you notice it less, right? You just end up noticing it less. Because you get used to the new baseline and then you're looking for some other thing, Don't do that. Just accept where it is at the moment. Can I make sourceless for Canadians? Yeah, a lot of stuff does ship to Canada. I just was dealing with a client yesterday who was using the DHT gel that came from sourceless, lives in Canada. Lesbos, do you find that HCG is more important than testosterone improving libido and erections? You should definitely add the test P to that. I think there's a strategy that works where you try to find the HCG dose that works, and then you dial your test in around that. Which means in some cases 300, upwards of 350 IU of HCG a day. And then you low dose test on top of that. 70 to 105 milligrams, 110 milligrams. Yeah, that does work for some people. I currently do anything for hair management? Nothing. Yep. I only have, the only DHT input that I have in my system is a little bit of DHEA, but also 25 milligrams test cream on the scrotum every morning. And it's not enough to fry my shit. Proviron would because it hits really quickly. DHT itself definitely does, but I don't need to do anything at the moment. E2 should be 25, 60 to 80 on DHT is a good place to be. Belly gas. Yeah, it's one of the source list folks. Joshua, how long after last shot of anything can I start on my 100% cream regimen at 2 clicks daily? Wanted my doctor to do a hybrid, but it was easier to just switch me to 100% cream. Honestly, this is a good question. If you want estradiol to like more quickly land where it's going to land on cream, like that new baseline, then if you can stand it, I would wait a fucking week. You can start right away, but just keep in mind the estrogen is going to slowly come down, and you still have it from all that enanthate, from whatever dose of enanthate you're on. You still have that estradiol. Like I had transitioned from a higher dose of enanthate to cream, and even after about a week, estradiol sensitive was still 65, you know, because like the high dose of enthanate I was on had just brought the estrogen up. And so, but you know, there's other times where I had just run that same dose of cream when previously I was running a lower dose and an injectable or something. And then, you know, the estrogen was 30, you know, it's just, you need to get it down. Calcium glucarate will certainly help with that. In the meantime, brother, some people have just a fucking phenomenal time on cream, you know, little bit of HCG. I do still believe, based on just what I've seen, it's really not a belief that, you know, you should keep the testicles functional on cream. Little bit of HCG, but you know, 2 to 3 pumps a day of the 200 milligram per milliliter, or you would be looking at 4 to 5 pumps of the 100 milligram per milliliter stuff in the morning on the scrotum. Usually a good sweet spot. Yeah, plenty of people, as I've been saying on videos lately, end up at 30 estradiol, but 1200 test on cream and a lot of DHT, which is just fucking perfect. You know, it's just fucking perfect, man. Mike tried to raise the dose and got anxiety. Welcome to the club. That goes away. That goes away. Yeah. Listen, the truth is if you are not used to surges of fucking androgens, my girlfriend's going through this right now, not on androgens, but on HRT for women. And, you know, her body, her brain is very much not used to the level of estradiol that she is now getting via, you know, patches. And it is fucking with her big time. She'll get through it and she'll be fine on the other side and feel like a fucking goddess. But this is the kind of shit that happens. Every time I tried to go up in dose, I had problems. And then I had to slowly scale it down and then scale it back up again. And I adjusted. If you can sit through it without thinking it's the end of the world, which is going to take a little willpower and strength, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You know, you'll come out the other end. Dude, I remember at the beginning of TRT, if I would dose like any more than 50 milligrams at a time of cypionate, I would get anxiety. I'd get to the point where at nighttime, it was 12 a.m., and I'd be ready to go to sleep, fucking totally ready. Had a hard day, worked out, like should have been able to go to sleep, but I was wide awake and wired. At midnight in bed, like I close my eyes for a fucking hour doing all the shit that I know makes me go to sleep, like picture certain scenarios in my head. Fucking couldn't do it. The sleep switch was just turned off. But as time went along, that went away. Yeah. Most side effects with a lot of stuff just kind of go away. Especially in high doses. Then I ended up at 560 of enthanate a week. I mean, it's 160 milligrams every other day. Just big bolus intramuscular injections. 160, that's what people take a week. More than what a lot of people take a week. I did that every other day. Slept like a baby, felt great. Had to use Aromacin to control that E2 or my dick wouldn't work. But this shit goes away, bro. It will go away. Brodo Baggins says Adam Prop is in GSO is fine. Don't worry. Yeah, totally. Totally good. Guys, those of you that just jumped in again, I've opened more slots on this, okay? So we are now running 20 more slots. There's 19. I filled one yesterday. 50% off. If you're thinking about booking with me, now is absolutely the time. You're going to save thousands of dollars on everything. You save $1,000 on the month. You save $2,500 on the 3 month. You save $4,500 on the 6 month, and you save 12 fucking grand on the 1 year. Huge discount. I've never reduced the price 50% on coaching ever, but we're doing it now. We got some slots to fill still. All you guys, brothers. Miguel, is it normal to, at the 8 to 9 week of starting TRT on 160 milligrams of SIP every other day? Guys, when you say 160 milligrams of SIP, and then you put every other day, that makes anyone think that you're injecting 160 every other day, which is 560 a week. What I think you mean is you're doing 160 a week, but you're injecting that every other day. So clarify that. Is it normal to start getting a greasy forehead and pimple breakouts on week 13 still greasy? Relatively. Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably too high of a dose to start for you, it looks like, if you're having these side effects. At the same time, a lot of that stuff tends to go away. So, you know, play Russian roulette a little bit. You know, stick with it. Look at me, I look like a fucking robot. Just stick with it. Just stick with it. See what happens. You might have to give it a month or two. If it doesn't clear, then yeah. I mean, it's just you're making a lot of DHT, which is good. Probably the estrogen is too high. Estrogen will absolutely positively fucking cause breakouts. No question. Be real, bro. I rubbed test cream on the shaft. Abso-fucking-lutely, Joshua. I sure as hell have. Yeah, it gives me nocturnal wood when I'm otherwise not having it. Like on cycle. On cycle, like it was just, before I put Aromacin in the protocol, it wasn't functioning very great. But even on other times, if I'm trying to dial in on a protocol and it's taken a little time as I'm rearranging some of the compounds and then giving it the adequate time to build up to stable concentrations, it usually takes just some time. Depends on the ester. A pump of the 200 milligram per milliliter stuff on the shaft at night and wood all night. Because look, you bind locally to the ARs and it's pretty vascularized skin. So you do have 5-alpha reductases in penis tissue too. So you're going to make more DHT locally and then some will go systemic as well. Same with the test. But yeah, it is a good strategy. It does work. It absolutely can work. It does work. Eduardo asks if I think it's a good idea to use Clomid and Proviron. No. Listen, you guys have to think about what these things do. Yeah, Proviron will mildly lower estrogen. Depends on the dose. You go to 50, 75, you're really going to be lowering estrogen. But Clomid blocks estrogen receptors. So you wouldn't want to have something that's like even mildly lowering estradiol when you're also blocking estrogen receptors. At the same time, I mean, it's just a dumb idea. Clomid is a PCT drug. All right. I just want to make that clear for people. People have asked me, and I think it's because of these other clinics that are, making a killing off of people that aren't informed by suggesting Clomid or its, variations for testosterone. It's a bad fucking idea. These drugs are post-cycle therapy drugs. They're drugs you take temporarily to restart the system and then let your natural test take over after that. They are not things to be on consistently. And the side effect profile is significantly more substantial than test. You wouldn't want to use this. Think about what they do. It doesn't make sense. Nemo, is there a reason for you suggest splitting up daily DHA between AM and PM to avoid estrogen spikes? It's just what ended up working for me at a previous protocol. I now just run 20 milligrams in the morning. That's all I run. Saves me DHEA. DHEA can also be pretty, it converts to DHT, boys. It converts to DHT. So it can start fucking with your hair as well. If I take 50 or more a day, I notice it in my hair. That's the DHT. Well, you get benefits from that, but you gotta weigh that out. Either way, I mean, clomiphene is better, but it regarding some of the ocular side effects and shit, but still, it's not a good idea. Thoughts on peptides like PT140? So TB500 I've used, and it seemed to help, some minor injuries that I was having in the gym, just wrist pain and shit like that. I also noticed every time that I took TB500, I got erection quality increase. But, that looks like the reason behind that is that it optimizes the lining of your blood vessels, and makes them very healthy. PT141 is hyper dopaminergic. That's essentially what that does. The effect that you get regarding erections and libido won't last. Like, you should take it once a week if you really want to not desensitize yourself to the response. Yeah, take it once a week. You take it any more than that, and you're just going to desensitize yourself to the response, and it's not going to work well after that. I think it's fucking phenomenal. This and what is it, melatonin 2 or melatonin 3, MT something or other. Those are pretty powerful for just stimulating erections and libido, but they're not sustainable, meaning the effect won't be there every time you take it unless you take it pretty sparingly. Eduardo, is it possible to increase DHT substantially using only supplements? No, I don't think so. I think the outcome of taking creatine as an example, or anything that purports to increase DHT or has scant literature which suggests it does, which is the case with creatine, you're getting an inconsequential marginal effect. Yeah, melatonin 2 is what I was talking about. That shit will give you erections. I had upwards of 85% of people are going to get randoms on that stuff. It will become less effective over time, just like PT141 does. So just keep that in mind. But fuck yeah, shit's powerful, man. Like these drugs are just useful to have, somewhat for fun, and somewhat in case you need them. if you can figure out the dose that doesn't make you nauseous, but also gives you erections. Because, you know, when you get hyper dopamine activity, it can trigger nausea. It can trigger nausea. You know, you'll find this with people taking lots of Mucuna. You'll find this on people taking cabergoline or bromocriptine. If they're not used to it, you're going to get that kind of shit on these drugs, PT-141 especially. I remember the first time I took it, God, I think I ran an entire 2 milligrams. I was single, so I wanted to go out and you know, find a girl. And first of all, I was fucking nauseous as shit. My face flushed for about a half an hour after I dosed it. Then that went away, and I was totally horny. Like sensations all over my body felt more intense. Like my shirt rubbing against my back. I know that sounds weird, but it just felt like I could feel everything. I was having random erections, just kind of driving, and I went, you know, downtown here in Pittsburgh to hotel bars to see if I could, you know, pick up a lady, have a cool night, you know. And it was crazy. The stuff works. So use it strategically in situations where you need better erection quality or libido, but don't take it consistently, because it's not going to consistently produce the result. It just doesn't do that. It just doesn't do that. Not going to do it, brothers. Eduardo is asking what medicine to use for enhancing masculine characteristics. Just Proviron. Proviron will do that. That's where Proviron comes in handy. If that's your only goal, I mean, you should obviously situate your test and your HCG to make Proviron work for you. And I've done a recent video on how to make Proviron work for you. What you need to do. But I mean, if you're just looking for that sort of effect, Proviron. Yep, makes your voice deeper when you take it. You'll probably grow some hair on your body if you continue to take it that you didn't previously have, maybe on your beard. It's not particularly hair friendly, head hair friendly, so just be aware of that. Joshua, been on 1,000 IU, 10,000 HCG per week for almost 1.5 years, pinning 2,000 every other day. Do you have any clients that high? Only people running fertility protocols, and I don't get those guys. You know, I get guys that are on TRT 100% of the time. You know, 99% of the time. Occasionally get a guy that has PFS, doesn't, you know, hadn't gone on TRT, is seeking my advice on what to do and protocols to run and stuff. But no, that's a fertility protocol. I mean, that's for people that are trying to have babies, you know. Even then, so some of them don't go that high. Boys, as I said in the beginning, and as I'll say throughout, I just opened up 20 more slots. There's 19. One booked yesterday. I'm sure some will book over the weekend. 50% off. You're saving thousands of bucks with me. Again, as somebody mentioned, I mean, the value of using a coach is the HRT clinics do not have people that are in the trenches seeing situations that are, you know, unique and repetitively having to fix specifically sexual dysfunction. That is what I've just become a specialist at. It's what I like to do. Man, having good erections and a killer libido is so fucking important for men. And on androgens, like it just, if people approach it non-judiciously or even with some thought, but it ends up not working out, you can lose sensation to some degree. You know, I'm the guy that gets the calls from like wealthy venture capitalist owner. I mean, these guys are fucking mega 100 millionaires that are you know, paying other consultants and going to the most revered doctors, and they can't do shit for them. And then they call me, and within a month they got erections back, you know, because I've just seen all of this, you know, more times than I could count with fucking 700 hands or more. Book me, livecortex.com. What happens initially is I reach out to you. We get on a fact-finding call right away, usually within a day. And then we start. And it runs the gamut. Like, nothing's off limits. If we need to use DHT, we use DHT. If we use Masteron, we use Masteron. We use Primo, we use Primo. You can use Prop, we use Prop. We use Cream, we use Cream. We use lots of 20% DHT, we do that. Book me, livecortex.com. Livecortex.com. I'll get right with you, and we start. Fucking Geronimo, boys. 50% off. Current protocol, 112 milligrams test C a week, doing daily injections, the upper glute 5/8-inch needle, 330 IU HCG a day, 20 milligrams DHEA in the morning, 25 milligrams test cream on the scrotum every day. That's 100 milligrams per milliliter stuff. That protocol is very good and stable. Erections are amazing. Sensation's good. Libido is great. But if I go over, like every now and then, just for the fuck of it, like, my body will make a little more estradiol. Could be because I drank or whatever it was. And then I got to lower that HCG dose for like a day or two, and then right away that first day that I take it down from 330 to call it like 250, erections are back full force kind of thing. But, that's where I'm at. I'm pretty anabolic. I don't think I have physique images on here. Yeah. That's essentially what I look like with a pump right now. So that's pretty good. I mean, keep in mind, I went on a cycle last year. It's been an entire year at this point. But with a pump, that's where I'm at on, just over 100 milligrams a week with a little bit of cream. So I'm pretty fucking happy with it, man. I'm pretty fucking happy with it. And I don't see any to change it. The whole point of it for me was I got to the point where I was tired of taking shit to control estrogen, and I'll go back. I'm going to go back on cycle. I'm going to go back on cream prop hybrids of high doses. I love how I felt there. So I'll go back and all that shit, just taking a break, right? Letting the acne subside and just kind of riding it out without having to think about my protocol much at all. Just having a fully functional dick, and libido's phenomenal, sensation's great. So that's where I'm at. Genetic testing might be good if you want to figure out if you get like some sort of shortage in 5-alpha reductase and thus the conversion of test to DHT. Any evidence that kisspeptin 10 will cause downregulation of some kind, or is it similar to HCG long term? Is for a downregulation of what? Lytic cells? Because that doesn't happen with HCG. To some degree, you might have fewer of them, which implies some degree of downregulation, but it's inconsequential. What actually happens is when people think they're getting downregulation of the Lytic cells, and then they believe that. Have you looked at your Lytic? Like, is there a way to biopsy? You sure about that? Because if you look into it further, what actually happens is in the presence of a lot of HCG, instead of, I think it's 17-hydroxyprogesterone converting the HCG to test, it changes to an alternative backdoor pathway of just DHEA converting to the test. You don't downregulate Lytic cells. So regarding kisspeptin, I don't know. Not a whole lot on this. It's not something that I've really studied. Yeah. But certainly a lot of people that are into the kind of steroid scene take the stuff and know a lot about it. And change the hair protocol. At this point, I don't do anything to manage my hair. It's fine. When I get back on cycle, which will be probably in the wintertime, then I will have to manage the hair to some degree. Be derma rolling for the most part, and high-dose tocotrienols. Eduardo, would you recommend another androgenic drug besides Proviron to improve male characteristics, or is it enough? Proviron would be enough. Why would Proviron destroy my libido? Probably because it's crushing estrogen, or you're approaching it non-judiciously by taking it while you're a natty. You need testosterone support, and you need an aromatizable androgen if you're a natty and you start taking Proviron. It can do this if it just nukes estrogen, blocks it too much at the gene expression level, which would indicate estrogen's already kind of low. If you say, why would Proviron destroy my libido, but you give me no context, how the fuck do you expect me to answer you? I mean, excuse me for being a little abrasive, but think about that, brother. Give me some context, man. What do you mean? Well, that indicates Proviron destroys people's libido, which is not true. You guys got to think about your questions, man. Josh, notice any gains combine the pump plus stretching and DHT test in the shaft? Oh, absolutely. Again, just a little bit of additional DHT on the shaft or on the scrotum. If estrogen's in range in your protocol, almost always adds a noticeable degree of erectile rigidity, just erectile strength, which is awesome. It's just awesome. It's awesome to have that in the arsenal to pull out as a weapon. It's fucking awesome. So yes, definitely. The pump, I think, look, regarding pumping, I think most guys should be pumping. Penis pumping, man. Just run 5 to 10 minutes a day at a medium gauge. You're doing what nocturnal erections do for you, which is supply the penis with oxygenation in blood to prevent fibrosis. It's really one of the purposes. I think it's an overarching purpose for nocturnal erections is to keep your dick alive. If you can manually do that with a penis pump, it's a good idea. It's a great idea. I have a pump. I have an automatic pump that I, set at a pretty medium gauge, and I'll run it for 5 to 10 minutes in the shower and just sit there and brush my teeth for longer, floss a little, chill, hang out, meditate standing up. I only take DHEA, and that's 20 milligrams a day. Pregnenolone, I'm not a Pregnenolone fan. I mean, why? So you can convert a lot of it to progesterone because your body don't know how to regulate the supplemental form that much, and then you block 5-alpha reductase enzymes. Fucking stupid idea. Stupid idea. If you have anxiety on TRT, Pregnenolone, you need to figure out why. You're probably just going to get used to the extra test over time, or your estrogen's too high, or you have an otherwise imbalance in neurochemistry that you've got to fucking figure out, because people run grams of tests and don't have that. So Pregnenolone's not, I don't think people need to be taking that shit. I really don't. Eduardo, I suggest you watch a lot of our content and do some learning. Mike, how would one know if they have long COVID? I recently found out my second shot caused myocarditis because I got in the bad batch. Yeah, plenty of people are having cardiac issues from that thing. I mean, it's in the literature now, so it can't call people conspiracy theory. Like, this is like the lowest IQ fucking thing. You're conspiracy theory. Oh, you just believe the establishment? Fucking naive idiots, man. Anyway, yes, long COVID is characterized by a lot of things, but the most prominent thing that we've found in people's blood is these really, really tiny blood clots that aren't going to cause you to have a stroke or anything, but they, cause you to have less oxygen in blood flow to certain degrees, certain organs and, the circulatory system. Secondarily, though, you have a profoundly exaggerated response to histamine. Yeah. You have effectively histamine intolerance. So you get all kinds of allergic-like reactions from eating cheese or meat, just regular food. I had it. I had long COVID. And in the beginning stages, I had all manner of side effects, dude. I felt like I was absolutely fucking dying. I'd go to the ER, run lab, be like, I need to run these labs. They're like, are you a doctor? I'm like, no, just long story, but please run these labs for me. I'll pay for them. Need to see where this shit's at. And, we could never actually find anything significant. Not even like troponin or fucking raise anything crazy. But my response to histaminergic foods was like, it'd make me feel fucking crazy. I'd have head pressure. I would get lightheaded. My veins, I'm a veiny dude because I'm part Italian. My veins would thin out in front of me. It looked fucking creepy as shit. And, I had a bunch of dysautonomia, so my blood pressure would oscillate back and forth. I would stand up and get super dizzy for a little bit. And then I had to aggressively treat it, man. I had to aggressively treat it, not just with NAC and all the usual stuff, but I had to run cycles of, that one compound that, the press said was for horses, but it actually fucking worked. I had to do a bunch of stuff, and I'm better. But those are some of the symptoms, dude. Go to the long COVID long haulers subreddit. That's where you're going to find the symptoms. And if those symptoms match your symptoms, because there's people that took the that have this also on there, a lot of them, and then some people that just got the virus itself that have this. Go look at their symptoms and compare, and you'll see exactly what the symptoms are. It's no fucking fun, dude. It's no fucking fun. I about lost my mind on having that thing, but I figured it out. Trey, just what if question. Could one potentially run test prop every other day and run cream on off days? Absolutely. Yeah, I've done something like that before. You just have to find the right doses. I've not experimented with this. Not a whole lot anyway. Mahid. Anyway, thank you so much. Even you was angry at me. I explained for those test prop. Best libido was vet testosterone perpinate, and my dose is 30 milligrams a day. Josh says, get labs and see what changed, brother. That's what you should do. Can't consult you over here, though. If you want to super chat like a comprehensive question, I can answer it. What about using caffeine plus huperzine A? It's an interesting combo. Yeah, people have done that. I've done that back in the nootropics days. It's a good combo. Just be careful. Huperzine A is not sustainable long term. It is, in fact, a Alzheimer's drug. Adam, do you take dim and calcineuclear? At this point, I don't need to. Estradiol last check was 27 picograms per milliliter. So I'm at a lower dose of TAS, just around 100, 110. It kind of oscillates depending on what's going on. High dose of HCG, but I've got 25 milligrams of test cream to kind of block a little bit of that E2 and give me more DHT. It's a perfect protocol for me at the moment. Fucking awesome. Even better with a 5 of cialis every day, or fucking 20. Forget it. I'm just an erection for days upon days. Days upon days. Brothers. All right, brothers. R.I.P. Hulk, by the way. Man, that sucks, dude. Yeah, it sucks. I went and saw some pictures of Hulk Hogan, just before he died. I didn't know he was that sick. He had just been on Rogan a year ago and looked all right, but he got really sick and really skinny looking and fucked up toward the end of his life there, and had a heart attack, and he's out of here. Fucking iconic dude. So rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. I forget his actual name. Anyway, boys, this isn't necessarily the final call, but these are going to book very quickly. Coaching 50% off. 50% off. You're saving thousands of bucks, thousands of dollars on every coaching package right now. Go book livecortex.com. We'll be on the fact finding call as soon as Monday. Let's get it done. 19 slots open at the moment. You'll literally see thousands upon thousands of dollars come off of the total. Just do it for fun. Go add coaching to your cart, whichever one you've been eyeing. Punch the discount in and like watch it just reduce in price, like thousands of dollars. It's awesome. And I'm happy to do it, honestly. We booked a lot of people and we're making a lot of great headway already with folks. And it's a big fulfilling part of my life to do coaching. I've got all this knowledge, and clinics aren't helping people, and a lot of people just don't know what to do, and especially regarding sexual function on TRT and stuff. So book me livecortex.com. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. More content coming every day this week, so look forward to it. We're going on a run here. It's going to be crazy. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. Talk to you about the next one. Bye-bye. See you later. Let's see.